of ideas. I'm a very hopeful person, and I'm also the child of my parents who didn't have opportunities, but who said to me, you need to prepare yourself to be the best that you can be so that when the doors of opportunity open, you're prepared to go through. And they were very clear about being kind to other people and giving people an opportunity to be the best that they could be too. And that included white people, and that's who we were really looking at in the US. But they also said, you have to learn to fight for yourself, and you have to learn how to fight for what is important to you. So I am a fighter, I'm a thinker, and for me, I use my ideas as the terrain of struggle. I am from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is a city. I was born in the inner city, and I grew up in the inner city and went to public schools. So I thoroughly understand the importance of getting an education. I am the first person in my family to get a college degree. Fortunately, I have not been the last person in my family to get a college degree. Thereby, for me, believing that when you open a door, you want to make sure that the door that I was able to open, because the generation of my parents opened it before me, it's important that people behind me have the opportunities that I had. So it isn't just a question of I got mine, now you get yours. So the nature of my work is looking at those bigger issues as they affect black women, and starting with black women and seeing black women's struggles as a human rights struggle, but not seeing it in terms that glorify it or glamorize it, seeing it as an intergenerational, long-term, ongoing struggle where ideas matter. So that's my terrain of ideas. It's changed a lot, but in many ways it hasn't changed at all. I see a constant tension or struggle between those who want to keep things the way they are and those who want to change them. And the people who usually want change are the people on the bottom, because they see the consequences and the costs of being on the bottom. They see the waste of talent. They see the shrinking lives that are there. But the people on the top don't see this at all. They basically think very much that they individually are smarter and more wonderful and more beautiful and more powerful, and that these other people are simply wrong. Now, women's rights, human rights, the rights of gay lesbian people, the rights of poor people, the rights of ethnic groups, indigenous people, US has all of this, by the way, as does Brazil. I mean, I'm talking about black women, but black women are also all of those things. If you look at a group of black women and you say you are for black women, it eventually gets you to all of these categories. So what's changed is, I think, the much more recognition of the heterogeneity among black women. What's changed is a recognition of the heterogeneity among women in general. That's certainly had a big impact on the feminist movement. What's changed is we have better analysis about why some people are on the top and some are on the bottom. This would be the work that I've done on intersectionality with others, in dialogue with others, to give us a language to talk about that heterogeneity. So what hasn't changed is the significance of the struggle. But what has changed are the contours of how we think about it and the tools that we have available to us to do that. For example, journalism is a very good example of a tool that we did not have in quite the way we had it before. In the US, there's been a long history of the black press that really held the banner high, reporting on issues that affected black people and pushing back against the damaging press that was out there about black people. I mean, what's being talked about now in the public is baby steps compared to what used to be. So, but what's different now is we have these particular tools, and what do we do with them? So the question of what's changed and what hasn't changed, the need to continue with this kind of struggle has not changed. But what has changed are different patterns of victories and failure that we can now see. It's very important to have a model of empowerment that isn't just one of dealing with a government. Because in many ways, the people who need to become empowered don't have rights. And if you don't have rights, it's very difficult if you don't vote or if people won't let your children go to school. It's difficult to just think about politics in pushing back against right-wing politics. I start in another place thinking about a politics of empowerment. I want to know things like how people empower themselves in the context of everyday life. So I look at things like survival politics. What does it mean to make sure that, to protect children, to protect our loved ones, to think about institutions that enable us to survive so we can do other things. Protest politics are certainly important, but there's far more to it than that. What do we do to nurture the humanity of people who are on the bottom so that they are positioned to one day, when the door of opportunity opens, walk through it and be prepared to do it, which is where we started this entire interview. So I see that politics of empowerment as being a space that anyone can participate in, regardless of whether you have rights or whether you have citizenship or whether you have whatever, because there's always something that you can do in terms of making the world more humane for the people who are around you, and thereby positioning everyone to engage in empowerment and become empowered. So there are lots of dots to connect between the woman, the black woman who is living a very difficult life because she doesn't have money, because she may have children that she can't support the way she would like, and those who are in the government who hate her, right? There are a lot of dots to connect. But instead of looking at the top exclusively and saying we must fix that and maybe it will trickle down to her and she will become empowered, it's much more of a bottom-up thinking around how you organize within your everyday life with what you have to work with and the vision of where you think you can take it to empower yourself and those whom you love and care for, even if you yourself will never see victory in your own life. That's empowerment for me. For me, I have to have something to believe in. And I believe in big ideas like social justice and freedom. But I also very much believe in people. Not all people, not all the time. I certainly believe in the potential and the possibilities of people when they are young. So for me, what keeps me going is my sense of responsibility and accountability to those who are behind me. And the task that I have of keeping some big ideas going and not contributing to their disempowerment because I'm discouraged. But that doesn't mean that I don't acknowledge being discouraged. That's why I framed it the way it was. How do you get up every day and do something you don't want to do, but you know you have to do it because someone else is depending on you? And the fact that you were able to depend on other people who did that for you. So to me, it's the two things that keep me going are the belief that there can be a better world, all right, even though I may not see it. And I'm at a point in life now where I'm not going to see a lot of things. But the belief also of looking at the potential of the young and who they are and their energy and their talent and their beauty and their I think young people are amazing. And I certainly think that about young people in the U.S. We've had a major march in the U.S. Organized by young people who were upset about gun violence in their schools. And they were not black women necessarily, but they were people that said, no, we can do better than this. My sense of Brazil is that you also have a very large and exciting young population. So they're going to run this country in a generation. All the people who are here now, who are running things, who are trying to replicate themselves in their children, won't be here. So it's always another opportunity. To know that Bolsonaro, or right-wing, first of all, you're fighting for your own life, and you're fighting for the lives of people you love. How can you give that struggle up? So I don't necessarily, there will always be another right-wing person. That's an old theme. This is not a new issue. So I think the issue is to keep going. Because if you look at the victories of people of the past, they have given us a present with possibilities. We're in a present now where people want to shrink those possibilities. But they're not going to win as long as you push back. They will lose. That's what I'm trying to say. They will lose. They may not lose this week or next year or next decade, but they will lose. And I say this because when I look at African Americans who came to the U.S. not even as people, as property, with no rights, owned by other people, not even owning the right to have your own body, and to engage, do you think that slavery went away because somebody just woke up one day who wasn't a slave and said, oh, let's just do away with slavery? It went away because somewhere in that community was a fierce struggle someday for it to go away. That struggle was won, but that doesn't mean it's over. So the issue is the struggles of today that need to be won, and they can be won, but that does not mean it's going to ever be over. That's what I started off with, that tension in the beginning, talking about the two things together. People who want to keep the status quo and people who want to change it. Be on the side of change. It's the right side of history.